the first law of motion that says every body of mass will continue in a direction until it's being acted upon by a force, right? And sometimes that's what we do. We're like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, until something happens to us, right? I think it's just being able to see the current reality, being able to see, okay, what is it that is important for me here? And use that who you are to navigate that. For me, I think I would say that was one secret sauce for me, trying to differentiate what I do and who I am. And when I found that person back, who I am, it helped me understand that being a geologist was something that I did. But I am bigger than being a geologist. I am better than being a geologist, right? There's so much more I can contribute to life than just being a geologist.
Today, I'll be speaking with the lovely Dennis Agbegha. Dennis currently works as Regional Manager Partnership for the Prairies at BDC. His career started with BDC in March 2021 when he joined as a Commercial Accounts Manager. Dennis joined BDC from ATB, where he worked as a Business Banking Advisor and until most recently, Senior Manager Entrepreneurship. Prior to his banking career, Dennis was a geoscientist with ExxonMobil, and before, he was a production geologist with Shell Upstream International in Nigeria. As a community builder and connector, Dennis enjoys volunteering for different organizations and being a part of his community. Dennis holds a Bachelor of Science in Geology and Mining from the University of Jos, Nigeria, as well as a Master of Science in Petroleum Geoscience from Imperial College London, UK. Dennis embodies a vibrant and magnetic energy that draws people in. His colorful glasses are more than just an accessory. They symbolize his approach to life and business, bold and unapologetic. As a business leader, he prioritizes empathy and connection, believing that success is built on relationships. He inspires those around him to be authentic and to lead with their hearts, creating an environment where innovation thrives. Hi, Dennis. How's your afternoon been?
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful afternoon. I know it's minus 25, but it's still beautiful.
Calgary weather. I don't know what to say about Calgary weather.
I know. Well, it's amazing. I think we've had a great run of good weather, and it's cold, and yeah, it's gonna be warm again. So just
I'm looking forward.
enjoy the beautiful indoors.
Actually, I do not. For those of you that haven't spent a winter in Calgary, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
It is. It is.
It's very interesting. Okay,
Awesome.
now I'm going to ask the question that almost everyone's thinking.
Mhm.
How did you get from being a geoscientist to working in banking? That's my first question for you.
Oh my God. No, thank you though. First of all, again, I was still gonna say thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I appreciate everything you do. So now going back to the question, how I found myself in banking, I always say that it wasn't something that was planned. I
Mm.
came to Canada to work as a geologist. That was the reason I came here. Well, to have a good life and also work as a geologist. That was what brought me to Canada. However, when I came, there were no jobs for geologists. I was applying for all sorts of jobs, couldn't get one. Then got a job at the call center at ATB Financial. So he was working at ATB Financial at the call center, learning the day-to-day banking, building relationships. One thing led to the other. From there, I got an opportunity to work in business banking. From business banking, I had the opportunity to work in small business at a branch. All through this process, I was learning new things. I was doing internal trainings. I loved my customers. I served them to the best of my ability. I would always go above and beyond to serve. And yeah, one thing led to the other. And in 2021, I got another role at BDC where I took on the role as senior manager in our mid markets, working with our mid market clients. And up to about 8 months ago, went into this regional manager role. So it's been interesting starting from the call center to becoming a regional manager and partnerships. That was how my banking career actually started. It started at the call center.
Okay, so I have more questions about how you started the call center and how that was. But before I
Mhm.
go there, what were some of your biggest dreams when you were growing up? As kids, we
Wow.
dream big and we
Yeah.
dream very big. So
Yeah.
yeah, what was that for you?
Interesting. Thank you for saying that. So my dream as a child, I wanted to, I just wanted to grow up, become something. I just wanted to become something. I always say I didn't want to be a disappointment. And that was something I was scared of growing up, right? Growing up around me, I'd seen people, they had high expectation and high hopes for them, and all of a sudden they either drop out of school or something happens. And I didn't want that for myself. My mom had worked really hard for me. My mom had really worked really hard for her family. She never went to school. She was uneducated. She had so many challenges. So I just wanted to grow up to make her proud. I just wanted to grow up to be able to be that son who cared for mom and dad, who maybe bought them a house, give them, just make sure they didn't need anything, right? So if I think about, that was my biggest dream, being that and not being a disappointment to my family and just being a light to my community. I just wanted to be a light to my community so that the younger people who were growing up could look up at me and say, hey, if Dennis can do it, we can do it. Right. So that was my biggest dreams. And now I think about it, my big dreams in life was not having big cars or big houses or any of that. I just wanted to make my mom proud. And that drove me all through my life in school, in whatever I did. That was a motivating factor, knowing that I do want to be a disappointment to her.
Well, speaking of your parents, was there anything that your mom specifically, or even your dad, or people
Yeah.
around you did that has changed the way you look at life?
Yeah. So my mom, if I think about it, my mom and dad were people of they were community people. They were real community people. When I say community people, they believed in bringing people together. They believed in helping everybody who was around them. Right. When I think about my life today, I see lots of that community as well. So I can trace that to what my mom and my dad did. They were the people who brought people together. They were the people who, didn't have, but they had enough to give to others. Right. So if they didn't have money to give you, they would give you their strength, they would give you their time, they would connect you with somebody. And I saw them every day. Like people will say, hey, I went to school because of your dad. Your dad was the one who paid our school fees. Your dad was the one who did this. So I think those things molded me and wanted to also be that person who also made a difference from people's lives. Right. I remember my mom telling me this story of how, because of my dad, a kid's life was saved because my dad had paid for the hospital bills. Right. So all those things were the things that made me happy. Those were things that drove me to want to be the best. Those were things that drove me to want to make a difference in other people's lives. So, if I to answer your question, they shaped me in those ways. Just loving people, loving community, and wanting to do all their best so that everybody around them became something. So they wanted everybody around them to be educated, to be something. Just think, for example, my mom never went to school, but she ensured that all of our kids went to school. She ensured that the people that were around her went to school. And I remember she would always say, education is the key. Education is the key. You must go to school. So sometimes I wonder, if she went to school, what would she have accomplished? She would have even accomplished so much more. Right. So I think, yeah, so that's those hardworking, them being hardworking and always wanted to do the best for community had something to do in shaping me to doing the same things that I do today.
I've heard of unfortunate stories where people that didn't have enough make sure
Yeah.
that the people that around them don't have enough to continue that
Mm,
cycle. So I'm
yeah.
very, very glad and I'm smiling that your parents didn't have that mentality. You
Yeah.
gave the example of your mom that just because your mom wasn't able to be as educated as she would have loved to be, it didn't stop her from ensuring that you and your siblings and other
Mhm.
people around you got the education that you needed. So I'm glad that you can share such
Yeah.
a story. I'm very glad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
A follow-up question I had, I cannot remember it right
Yeah.
now, but I'm sure that it will come to me. Okay, I remember it. We live in a world where we are self-centered. We're always self-seeking. We're looking for me, me,
Mhm,
me, me, me. So my question
mhm.
is, at what point did you realize that seeking or looking out for yourself isn't the way to go? Like, when did you realize that looking out for others is a
Mm.
better way?
Yeah, and it ties back to the previous question. I think I found that I found out from a young age about looking out for others. Looking out for others doesn't mean that you don't look out for yourself, right? You also look out for yourself because there's this saying that you have to love yourself first before you're able to love others, right? So you have to be able to take care of yourself first before you're able to take care of others. So I learned that from small growing up, looking at the things that grew up in, look at the things that my mom did, my examples. It wasn't just about my mom, it was about my neighbors, it was about the people in the community. Everybody cared for one another. I remember like in the place I grew up, we'll go take spoon. You want to eat in the like you want to eat lunch and there's no spoon for you. So you have to go to your neighbor's house to get a spoon or maybe you're making a dish, right? You don't have salt. Like you will have to go to your neighbor's house to get salt, right? So I grew up in everything was about community. We cared about one another. It was so interesting growing up, like where I grew up. There was not so much of power, right? So not the like electric power. There's not it wasn't there every time. So what will happen is like every evening all the kids will come out and sit around and we will tell stories, we would laugh, we would eat together, we would play together. We took care of one another. All those people were my brothers and sisters, even though we didn't come from the same parents. So right from a child, I was taught, to look out for others and that's what we just did. We just looked out for others. And being able to do that, looking out for others, we realized that you're able to take care of yourself better, right? So, if you take care of like looking out for others, there are things that they can do for you you'll never do for yourself, right? There are things that are going to affect you or your family or the people around you, right? So I think for me, now when I think back, I see some of those things from a childhood. They've always been there. And because of I love them, they continued till this day. I still believe in those things. Even though I would say we live in North America, that people like most times it's all about me and my family, right? It is just us in the house here, or the people that we bear the same name and all that stuff. Sometimes people think like that, but I always challenge people to look beyond that. Like when you go volunteering, when you mentor other people, you're actually looking out for others because you just never know the day that person will become something good for you as well. So, so yeah, no, you would always see me going back to my childhood, with my mom and all that. Those things really, really shaped me. And I am so, so glad. I'm so happy that I was taught those things when I was a kid.
I like how you're emphasizing on your background and your story because a lot of times we look forward, we look ahead,
Mhm.
and we
Yeah,
forget about the foundation that has been laid before. We don't look at it
yeah,
behind. We just like, oh,
yeah,
it's in the past. But no,
yeah,
we need to look at
yeah,
how the things that people around us did or did not do, how it shaped
yeah,
us. So thank
yeah,
you for sharing
yeah,
that, Dennis.
yeah. It is big. Like the things we'll talk more about that, but that whole shaping is very, very important in many ways and on what people turn out to be, right? So it's very, very impactful. Yeah,
Okay. My
yeah.
next question, my next prompt is, we know that you're an immigrant. We know that you moved from Nigeria to Canada. And my
Mhm.
question is, can you walk us through what that was like when you first moved? What were some of the obstacles that you faced and how did you overcome them?
Interesting. That's a great one. I wanted to leave. I wanted to live in this country. I wanted to live in Canada. That's the first thing I say. I wanted to live here. I wanted not to just live here. I wanted to enjoy this country called Canada. So when I landed, even though the first thing you start looking is, trying to get a job and all of those sort of things, it wasn't really easy. There were no jobs for people in oil and gas. There were no geologist jobs. right? So I think that was a huge obstacle for me. That trying to say, okay, what am I going to do? I've been doing this job for a long time. I've been doing this job for a long time. So what else am I going to do? I think that was a very, very scary point. And you will find that with many immigrants, that's something that is very, very scary as well. Right. So I think that was the biggest challenge. And how did I overcome that challenge? I enrolled in a program then. The program is called Higher Landing. So that program was helping people navigate their careers from oil and gas to other things, helping people in sports, navigating to other things. So I decided to do that program as well because I wanted to find what else I could do. Because at that point, I was like, oh, do I have to go back to school? Do I have to retrain again? Even if I did that, I have kids. How am I going to care for them? So all those things were big challenges in my head. I did that program. And when I did that program helped me find what my transferable skills were, right? So started engaging in things like, well, you're a customer care person, you give a very great customer experience, you're a peacemaker, you're a connector, you're an explorer. I found those things, I discovered those things more about me. And guess what? Where did I start from? A good place where I could practice all of that, the call center. It was a great place to practice all of that. It's easy for you to say, well, if I have all of that skills, maybe I should, based on my education and all that, I could have go practice somewhere else. But for me, that was a great place to start. And that kind of just things just evolved from there. So for me, getting that job was a huge concern. About integrating into Canadian life, that's another thing as well. I was open from the first day to say, hey, I want to learn and I want to also unlearn, right? Because I think sometimes one of the biggest challenges for many immigrants is will I say, the inability to unlearn the things we already know, our
Yeah,
way
we're
of
too stuck.
life. We're too
Yeah.
stuck to that. So we're like, oh, sometimes I'll see immigrants maybe or somebody eating somebody else's food. It was like, oh, my food is better than yours because of ours has this. And my mind was like, that's not true. It doesn't mean because of yours is spicy, it's better than the other one, right? And we need to be able to understand that, right? So for me, I had to unlearn a couple of things and also learn some things. Because if you don't unlearn, if you don't decouple those sort of things, it becomes a hindrance for you to integrate into the Canadian life. Because the way we live in Canada is different from the way we live in Nigeria. They're two different things. So if you do not have that ability to learn and unlearn, it becomes a huge challenge for you, right? So for me, I think navigating all of that, I had that prepared mindset that there were some things I was going to unlearn. There's a way things I do things that I'm going to change from doing that, right? So all of those things, when I put them all together, I think that's the way I was able to navigate them. I needed to know, like, well, I need to start volunteering. I need to start being part the way things are done here, right? You just need to find that same way to do it, right? So for me, I think I would say having that open mind and that willingness to learn was one of the ways my mitigation for integrating into Canadian life. And as well as that, going through the higher landing program that helped me discover my transferable skills, which also helps me in my job search as well. I hope I can tell you more, but I think I was just going to say on those two.
I always love hearing more. I love stories. So I'm definitely
Yeah.
going to ask you more follow-up questions. My
Okay.
first follow-up question
Yeah.
is when that realization that a job as a geoscientist
Hmm.
wasn't going to find you at that point in time. And I'm
Hmm.
asking this because I was watching, I like medical TV shows, so like Grey's
Yeah.
Anatomy, The Good Doctor,
Yeah. The
etc. And
residents.
I love all these shows,
Yeah.
Beyond etc. And there's a point in my life where I was like a strong Grey's Anatomy fan. And
Hmm.
there's this character, Dr. Burke.
Hmm.
He's a heart surgeon. And heart surgeons are very, very intricate with their hands because
Hmm.
they're working with very tiny vessels. And
Hmm.
something happened to him that affected his hand movements. And he had you know, when you watch a character and they talk through their emotions, and what I was getting from what he was saying was his entire life has been about him being a heart surgeon. And now that
Yeah.
he's not able to do it, he feels as
Mm,
though a part of him is lost. It's almost
mm,
like an
mm,
athlete or a baseball pitcher. Like your
yeah.
hand is your money maker. If
Yeah.
anything happens to you, you lose that hand. You feel like a
Yeah.
part of you is gone. So,
Yeah.
was how did you get out of that pit of believing that your entire life was about being a geoscientist? Because if I would have just been nothing,
Yeah. No, no. Great points. Great points. I think I came to realize that there was a difference between what I do and who I am. I was able on time to find that, to make that difference. And just like you talked about the doctor, and not just about the doctor, every other person, what we do, when we continue doing those things for a long time, we now define ourselves by by our occupation or by a profession, and that's not who you are, right? So somebody says, okay, hey, how is so? Well, the first thing people always ask is, what do you do? So because of people always like 80% of people will first ask that question, what do you do? People now define themselves as a geologist. Like, who are you? The first person will say, the first one, like, I'm a doctor, I'm a cardiologist, and this. That is what you do. That is not who you are, right? So for me, I think that when I came to that point where I needed to find something, I needed to find who I was, not what I did, right? So when I found out who I was, I now realized that I could do many other things in life. I could have been maybe a doctor, maybe a lawyer or something, or whatever you want to become, right? That is what you do. That is not who you are. Who I am a connector. I am a peacemaker. I'm a customer experiencer and I create happiness. Those are the things that define. And so when I was able to define that about myself, it helped me look at the jobs I was looking at, no matter how small they were, it made me look at the value I could bring to the job. It wasn't about my education. It wasn't about my degrees at Imperial College London. It wasn't all about that. It was about the value I am bringing to the table, right? So, and for many immigrants, and that's what I say, I say to many immigrants every day, yes, you spent so much money in school to become that person. You've worked many years being that person, but that is not who you are. You are something different, right? If we can always separate those two, because life will always change, right? I have many friends who've moved here from different countries because of war, because of something, and every day it's this is like this first law of motion. And I always talk about it, the first law of motion that says every body of mass will continue in a direction until it's being acted upon by a force, right? And sometimes that's what we do. We're like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that, until something happens to us. It's like, oh, I can actually be a cleaner. I can actually be this. I can actually do that, right? I think it's just being able to see the current reality, being able to see, okay, what is it that is important for me here? And use that who you are to navigate that. For me, I think I would say that was one secret sauce for me, trying to differentiate what I do and who I am. And when I found that person back, who I am, it helped me understand that being a geologist was something that I did. But I am bigger than being a geologist. I am better than being a geologist, right? There's so much more I can contribute to life than just being a geologist. And so for anybody listening, that's what I will always say. Say, find out who you are, not just about what you do. I hope that helps.
it does. It really, really does. Speaking of that distinction, you
Yeah,
mentioned that it's the value that you provide, not
yeah,
necessarily the work that you do. And I feel like being Nigerians, and I say this all the time because my culture has shaped how I think. Being
yeah,
Nigerians, we put a lot of emphasis on the title, the
yeah.
names,
Yeah.
chairman, oga. I don't, I don't even know how to
Yeah.
explain it. Like if you call someone that has spent how many years getting a PhD, without
Yeah.
that doctor in front of that name. It's almost like you've abused
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, so where we're going with this question, what are some prompting questions that listeners can ask themselves to differentiate between what they do and who they
Yeah.
are? Like, how
Yeah.
can we find, or you talk about authentic self, how can we find that inner essence in the best way possible?
Yeah. That's a great question. Wow, that's not a simple question. That's a hard one. So, me finding myself, because I came to realize that for you to be your best self, you have to find who your authentic self is first. Then you can be your best self, or you call it like your people say your best authentic self, right? So I would say there are so many things out there. There are so many programs. There are so many things to help you. Like this, like I know most times when you're getting a job, they try to do personality, try to do all those personality type sort of things, try to know who your personality is, trying to see if you can fit into the team or not. I think those are good things to actually find who you are. And one thing you must know is that you don't have to be like me, right? You don't have to be like anybody else. Like I find that with sometimes introverts, extroverts. Extroverts like me are just noisemakers. We just jump and we just do things. And many introverts was like, wow, I want to be successful, so I have to be like him. No, you just have to be yourself. Find who you are. There are many people, there are many things that can help you out there. You can get a counselor. A counselor can help you find who you are. As you walk every day with a mentor can help you find who you are. Or maybe it's taking a program like I did with Higher Landing, it will help you understand who you are. So there are many things that we can do to help us find who we are, that our authentic self, and based on that authentic self, build the best versions of ourselves. So if there's anybody looking at doing that, I would recommend those things. There's some of those type personal things you can do all about. Most importantly, find a mentor, be part of a cohort, be part of a group, find and you're able to differentiate who you are and from what you do. And sometimes it even helps you best at even with what you do. Because if you know who you are, there are many things you're going to be doing more authentically than some other things, right? So you begin to focus on those things that matter to you, that you can bring value. And for the people that we work with, because they know that that is what you can do best, they usually want to utilize those strengths to help the team grow better, right? Instead of putting like what's it called? People will say put this square peg in in the round hole. Yeah, like then it becomes a mismatch, right? So I think that there are a couple of things we can do to find who that authentic person, who you are. And if you do that, I think they are so very, very helpful. Did I get it clear? Did I answer that question very well? Yeah,
You did
okay.
100%.
Okay.
So far, you've answered all my questions 100%.
Thank
Before
you
I
very
ask my
much.
next follow-up
Yeah,
question, something I quickly
yeah,
wanted to say about this same topic of finding yourself
yeah.
is I've fallen into the trap of doing personality tests and building my entire identity on that result. That was
Mm,
me during the pandemic. I would do
yeah.
all these different tests and I built my entire personality on what that finding was. But like you
Mm,
said, how there are so many different ways you can find yourself. I feel like
yeah,
people need to realize more and more that life, like there are so many opportunities.
yeah.
So I can find a fragment of myself from discussions. I found from this podcast alone, I found that I love, absolutely love having discussions with people. So that's a
Wow.
fragment of my authentic self. I
Yeah.
found that I don't like accounting. That's a fragment of my authentic self. I feel
That's
like we need to be
interesting.
more open. We need to
Yeah,
be more open to experiences.
yeah,
Before I used to just say, no, 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 no.
yeah.
But like when I say yes, I think university has given me the opportunity to say yes to more things and weigh my
Mhm,
options and see what I can learn about myself from these experiences.
mhm.
So yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah.
my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, and giving yourself time, right? Give yourself time. I know
Takes time.
there's a whole essence of you, the things you like and the things that you don't like. Over time, life changes. We're changed by factors, we're changed by situations. We're changed by incidents. We're changed by discoveries. One thing I always tell everybody, forgive yourself, give yourself grace, love yourself, because we're changing. And the people around us too that want to be around us, they are very, the people around us are seeing those changes. So as like when we're around other people and seeing those changes and give them the ability to change, right? And give them the ability to say, well, this is like, hey, Davina, I know you used to like mathematics,
I
in
love
third
math.
grade. Yeah. They're like, you love to, why is it that you can't like accounting? It's just like, I don't like it. It doesn't mean because of I like maths, I must like accounting, right? So it's those things like, so give yourself grace. People change, and we as people, when we're around people, we should know people change. And when that time comes, let's give them the grace. Let's give them the love and kindness to make those changes in their lives, right? So yeah, that's the other thing I was just gonna add there.
I love that you mentioned giving yourself and other people grace. Before
Yeah,
I ask more questions on that topic itself, my
yeah,
next question is I've heard, whether it was during the Diary of a Niger Immigrant podcast or
yeah,
discussions with you, of
yeah,
how that first paycheck from the call
mhm,
center was
yeah,
compared to what you were earning as a
yeah,
geologist back in Nigeria. How
yeah.
did you give yourself grace in that situation? Can you walk us through what was going on in your mind?
Oh my God. First of all, the first way I gave myself grace was to go into the bathroom and cry very well. I was in the bathroom. I still remember being in that bathroom and just crying there. And because of I was helpless, I just didn't see how I was going to go forward. I didn't see how I was going to go forward. I just took time for myself to go into the bathroom to cry, right? So that was me giving myself grace, just crying there and just pouring out my mind to myself. I found that something happened in there that told me, remember that yes, you worked as a geologist, but that's not who you are. Your life is more than the money you earn. Your life is better than those things that you do. That like I just started asking myself, what's the worst case scenario? Right? What's the worst case scenario? What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen, which is that what had just happened, was that I'm not going to earn that same money anymore. But so which means in my life there has to be changes. One of the biggest problems people find in life is that when things happen, when life change, people want to hold back to that version of themselves,
Yeah, we
right?
grasp onto
We
the past a
grasp
lot.
into it and hold it like, well, this was a beautiful experience. This happened, that happened, and it's very human to do. It's very, very human to do, right? But for me, I just said, well, I'm just going to let it go, and I'm just going to, just start all over again, right? I looked at what were the scenarios, and I gave myself the grace to say, well, I am happy to start all over again, right? And once I gave myself that grace, that love to tell myself I was going to start over, I found that my body started going to work. My body started going to like, okay, now let's figure this out, how we're going to do it. And that's what happened. And we figured it out. Now I've seen that, I've seen that happen. And I go back and I tell many people, and many people tell me the same thing as well, that you realize that how in your life you're going to start so many times, right? You're going to start when we left primary school to secondary, that was a start. When you left primary school to university, that was a start again. When I moved countries, that was a start again. So when you start making those small things, those little things that you think that are insignificant, when you start adding value to them, then you realize that you have power to make the changes that you need to do today, right? So that is how I would say I gave grace to myself. Just accept the reality, right? I wasn't ignoring the facts. I wasn't ignoring the facts that my pay was low and all that, but I accepted the reality. I accepted that, well, there's certain things I used to do I will be unable to do going forward, but that's still fine. Like I'll still be able to love my kids. I'll still be able to be a great dad. I'll still be able to contribute to society. Those were the things that became very, very much more important for me. Right. So yeah, you're going to start all over again. and you're going to do very well at it. Who knows? You might even blossom to be somebody much more even better than the person that you thought you were, right? So yeah, so I think for me that was a big. I'm so glad everything worked out well, so I can always go back and tell people, don't worry, you'll be fine. Everything will be okay. Take one day at a time. Everything will be fine.
So for a new immigrant, or not even just a new immigrant, anyone
Yeah.
sharing this experience, for it is someone that is currently in their own storm
Mm,
and they're living from paycheck to paycheck and
hmm
they want to give themselves grace. But I mean, they
Yeah.
have bills to pay. What would
Yeah.
you tell them?
It's hard. I must confess that it's hard. I've been there. Like you're not you have bills to pay, you have things to do. I'm not going to sit down here and tell you it's easy. It's not. It's really not easy. But I think that you ask yourself, like, if I don't do anything, what will change? Right? If you don't do anything, nothing will change. Right?
Yeah.
So the next thing you need to do is you need to strive harder. You just keep going on. Just keep going on. When I meet many immigrants like that, I say, just keep going on, right? Think about the things that you need for today, and try to, even me talking about it, you can see how hard it is. I know how hard it can be. I have bills to pay. I have all of that, and the struggle is real. But I'm just gonna say that whatever your hand finds to do it very well, right? Like, even though I said I was a geologist, I worked in a call center, I did that very well. And it was that stuff that I did very well that opened up many other doors for me, right? It didn't mean I didn't struggle. It didn't mean I didn't struggle paying bills. What did I have to do? I moved, there are many changes I did in my personal life as well. I remember moving to a basement. I remember there's so many changes I made in my life, right? So I would tell anybody that when you move as well, you may have to make those changes, but just knowing that, like, that everything will be fine, right? Everything will be okay. Just keep pushing on, just keep applying for more jobs, right? Just keep doing the one you're doing now, do it with the best of your ability. And as you continue to do that, I think that tomorrow will always look brighter than today. That would be my advice to any immigrants that is going through that issue right now.
I love when the advice of my guests are relatively similar because I was having a discussion with
Mhm,
someone else, maybe Niba, and he said something very similar to what you said
mhm.
about doing your best today. Because
Yeah.
sometimes we like to underestimate things. We're like, oh,
Mm,
it's not just to serve coffee, or it's not just to do this, it's not
mhm,
just to do that. But we
mm,
don't place the full value
mhm,
on the task. And
mm.
that's beautiful. That is really, really, it really is. Okay.
Yeah. Just do with all your heart, whatever it is. Yeah, it's I know lots of people see it from different perspectives, right? There are some people that will say, well, you don't have to do that job, it's too low for you. You should find something better. But when somebody asks you that, say, hey, can you give me that job? Most times they can't even find it for you, right? So I think is that when you find yourself, make the best out of it and continue to grow from there. Don't get stuck at it. You know where you need to be. You just keep walking till you get there, right? There's no easy way out. I'm gonna be very honest. There's no easy way out. The only way out is looking at it and keep fighting and keep going. That's the only way out. Because if you don't do anything about it, nothing will change. And yeah, that's just the way it is.
That's very, very honest advice. Because sometimes we think that if we just sit still, nothing gets solved when we just sit still.
Yeah, yeah,
So yes, thank you for the honest advice. My next question is strength.
yeah.
And it's a two in one. The first one is who's your support system
Mm,
and how have they helped you? And the other part is where do you as a person draw your strength from? Because I feel like everyone needs to feel their time. So how
yeah.
do you do that?
Interesting because of I draw my strength from family and community. That's where I draw my strength from family and community. Just seeing my family gives me joy, gives me happiness. but also the work that we do in community, right? The things that we accomplish together, the changes that we make, those are things that drive me to continue to do more. People ask me this question: all the people you try to help in community and all that, have, all of them, have they all done well? No. The people you've helped, they turned out to be something else. But it's not about them. It's all about the other people that turned out right. Right? So for me, I think that's where I get my strength, just being part of the community and trying to make a difference every day. I said this before and I'm going to say it again, that after when I realized that if I can change one person, if I can do one good for one person, I have changed the world. That's changed my mentality. That has changed my mentality because I was always looking for the big crowds, the big groups to try to change everybody. Then when I realized that I could change one person, that's changed my mentality of life. So I'm not going around looking for 10,000 people to change. I'm going around looking for one person who I can make a difference in their life. If I can continue doing that on a daily basis, maybe on a weekly basis, that gives me the strength and the opportunity to keep going forward. That's where I derive my strength. On a personal note to the things I do, maybe I meditate. I also like try to walk out. Like when I'm walking out, I think that I'm my own sanctuary. It's a time of, I think, try to become the best version of myself, right? So those are some things that I do to find strength for myself. I listen to lots of podcasts as well, listen to other people's experiences, listen to what is going on. So those are the ways I find strength to be able to continue going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was listening to in sermon today
Yeah.
on love and how
Yeah.
we as human beings need to, like you said, start small. Start with that one
Yeah.
person in your
Mhm.
life. You don't have to love everybody, but start with one person.
Yeah.
So when I hear
Yeah.
you talk, I'm hearing that you're coming from a place of selfless love, I would
Yeah.
say, as opposed
Mhm.
to self-seeking or self-sufficient. My next
Mhm.
question relating to this is how do you find that balance between being compassionate, helping people, loving others,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
helping yourself, and
Yeah.
also not making this is a very, very thick question. There's
Oh
one
yeah.
side is helping others, being
Yeah.
compassionate, and the other
Yeah.
side is like facing reality. Some people just have bad behavior and that's it. It's not like they have a bad
Mhm.
day, they don't have a
Mhm.
bad week, they just have bad
Yeah.
behavior. And you don't want to make excuses for bad
Yeah.
behavior.
Yeah.
Another side
Yeah.
is you don't want to become a people pleaser or start to mold your decisions based on what other people will think. So how do you
Yeah.
find that balance?
Huh. That's a good one now. Huh. Okay.
Right?
I know you are. I think have I really reached that balance? I don't know, to be very honest with you. Um, but for me, it's taking one day at a time. Always understanding what my why is. Why do I do what I do, right? And try to
What
work
is
that
your why?
every day. My why? Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. My why is to create happiness. That is my why. My why is to create happiness. So every day, and just like I said something earlier on, like for you to give love, you have to love yourself. For you to care for others, you have to care for yourself.
Starts from within.
So it starts from within, right? So, and I think that's something I'm learning to do every day, to care for myself, to care for me. As I begin to care more for me, I begin to be able to care for others. And when I know my boundaries in that, hey, for example, I'm tired, I need to rest. If I break down, I'm going to be able to give to other people. So it's also understanding your boundaries as well, right? Understanding your boundaries. So it doesn't mean you want to help people, you want to do something, and like, hey, if I go in here, I'm gonna get hurt, I'm gonna be burnt. And you tell yourself, well, I know I'm still jumping into it because of I want to help people. No, that's not the way, because you need to be wise about it. you have to be smart about it as well, right? So I think it's just for me, I think it's creating those boundaries to say, hey, I want to do this, but these are the boundaries, and be able to pull the plug when you see that those boundaries are not being respected, right? You must be able to do that. Say, hey, I think we're done. Maybe I'm not the right person. And you don't have to be the right person. Sometimes we meet people in their journey, we meet them at the different points of their life, right? You're going to meet somebody today and you're like, oh my God, this person is this. You meet them 5 years from now, they're going to be somebody different. And then that journey,
Entirely.
yeah, it's going to be so different. So it's just knowing those. For me, I say set your boundaries. For me, setting my boundaries and saying, hey, this is what I can do, this is what I cannot do, because at the end of everything, I'm human, right? I'm very, very human. I have a heart. I can feel bad. I can feel sad. I can be heartbroken. I can feel joy. I can feel happiness. I can feel kindness. I can feel all of that sort of things. So setting those boundaries, I think, is just the way that helps me. And also knowing and also accepting reality. And when I say accepting reality, knowing that some things will work out well and some others will not. Now, what would I learn from those ones that worked out well? And what do I also learn from those things that do not work out well? Right? Take those learnings and put them into the next. But I would say, do not let the things that go bad stop you from going forward. And do not let the things that have gone right make you not to learn more, because of you can always get better, right? So that's the way I would put that, put your boundaries. They will really, really help you.
So be truthful to yourself and to others. Be- Have boundaries,
Yep.
like you said.
Yes.
Okay, okay. This
Yes.
is very,
Yeah.
very practical advice. I think a quick follow
Yeah.
up on this is, how do we not
Yeah.
bully ourselves for other people? I don't know how best to explain that term. It's
Huh.
almost like you want to do something, but you're like, oh, what would they think of me? How would they see me as?
Ah. Oh, that one is a big one, right? Where like everything we do is dependent on what people think about us, right? What will they say? And growing up in a Nigerian household, like that's one of the biggest challenges you have,
It is.
because of you're more worried about everybody's opinion more than whether you like it or not. It's like, oh, they said I must be an engineer, they said I must be a lawyer, they said I must be that. So even though it's not something you're passionate about, you're stuck with it because of people have told you that you have to do it. So to be honest with you, sometimes people realize that and say, well, no, I can't do it. Some people live with it all through their lives and find out when they're very old to realize that, oh, if I knew, I should have done something different. But what I'm just going to tell everybody, be true to yourself. You remember that you can only give happiness when you have happiness. You can only give joy when you have joy, right? So finding your voice, finding what makes you you, and being able to share that, I think that is the best thing you can do for yourself, right? So I know it's not easy for many places where we come from, whereby like we're stuck with what everybody thinks around, right? If what everybody says, oh my God, why is he wearing those sort of glasses and all that? If you keep following them, then you're never going to find yourself. You're not going to be who you are called to be, right? You need to do it the your own way. You don't have to be like everybody else, right? You need to, if it makes you happy, if you do it. Like when I was younger, I think that I fell in the same things too. Like what everybody wanted me to do was what I did, right? But as I grew older, I'm trying to realize follow my gut feelings to say, this makes me happy. This is who I am. And that is what I want to do. And what? Not everybody would like you. And it's fine. Not everybody needs to like what you do or say. Certain people will like you, some people will not. It's fine. It's still fine, right? Just knowing that you can't please everybody. Do what gives you joy and happiness. And that's what I'm going to say about that.
Yeah. My mom
Yeah.
likes to say not everyone likes jollof rice. And it's
Yeah.
true, because not everyone would like what you like. And we need
Yeah.
to face that reality of life and also being true to yourself. But realizing that we don't always have to like given to self-indulgences, etc. So I
Yeah.
like the balance I'm hearing
Yeah.
in this conversation. I'm thinking to myself, which one will I choose for highlights? Not that
Yeah.
everything is a good highlight. So I have
Yeah.
to figure out
Yeah.
which one I decide. You.
Yeah. While you're talking, I was just thinking about something like in the African context, and I like even in Calgary, you'll say Ghanaian jollof rice is better than
Oh,
Nigerian
Nigerian.
jollof rice. Nigerian jollof rice is better. If you're Ghanaian, would you say Nigerian jollof rice is better than Ghanaian? There's a likelihood that it's no, because of that's what you're used to. And if you're a Nigerian using Nigerian jollof, basically that's what you're used to. But guess what? It's still jollof rice, right? It's still jollof rice. If I like it, I like it, right? It still doesn't have to be this or that. It's something. So I'm just bringing it to the point that, like, it may even look alike. They might even have the same name, but they are still different. So stay your own course. Enjoy what makes it beautiful for you. Nobody else might see it. If somebody is eating, if a Ghanaian is eating Ghanaian jollof rice, the joy, the happiness it brings, right? You will say, is this not the same jollof rice we're cooking? And why is it like, no, forget about it. There's something special about it for that person who beholds the beauty, right? So if you want to start comparing and all that, oh my, I put this and no, you lose the essence of being authentic, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just one part I just want to add there.
Yes, I'm glad that you added it because a lot of people fall into this, and I do it sometimes. We fall
Mhm,
into this comparison thing.
mhm,
Or,
mhm.
yeah, we fall into it, and I don't think it's self-serving. It doesn't really help us.
Yeah,
On a brighter note, a question I told
yeah,
myself I had to ask you, and I knew we
yeah.
were running low on time, is I had to
Uh-huh.
ask you briefly, how did the bright glasses start? We
Uh-huh.
see you on LinkedIn with
Yeah,
your big smile, bright glasses.
yeah.
Tell us the story briefly how that started.
Oh my God. That it just, to be honest, it just started, right? It just started. One day I've wore glasses. I've always wore some interesting glasses, right? I like style in the glasses. I just want like this one I'm wearing is black, but it's got some style to it. I've always loved that style. So when I moved to Calgary, I remember going to buy one, and I saw this red and black stuff, and it was just beautiful. And I just said, "This is what I love. I'm gonna wear." I remember somebody I was with was at that point was like, "Oh my God, why are you gonna wear this? This doesn't even look good. This is what this. This is that." Like that's all they were saying. But for me, it looked good, and I wanted to wear it. And I was like, well, that's your problem. If you and you know, it's interesting because I remember this person telling me like, if it's me, I will never wear that glass. I was like, okay, if it's you, it's not
It's
me,
not you.
right? Yeah. So, but this ties back to what we said earlier on about our choices being other people's choices, right? But for me, I was like, this is what I like, and I just want to start wearing it. Now, interesting because of this person that told me this was somebody I relied on. This was somebody that I depended on, and sometimes we find that, right, that the people we depend on sometimes like they'll be the ones that make us not become our authentic self, right? Because of they want to put us in the same shoes as theirs and all that. So I was like, I'm going to go against this, and I wore it. And that person kept saying, "Oh, it's not nice." But guess what? Everybody else around me started telling me, "Oh, that's really nice. It brings out your personality more than everything else." And before you know, I got one, I got a second one, I got a third one, I got a fourth one. Because I think each time I wear it, do you know you have you seen the movie Mask? By yeah, when he puts on the mask, he becomes a different personality.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with my glasses. At once I wear them, it reminds me joy. It reminds me of happiness. It reminds me of being bold. It reminds me of being authentic. It reminds me to say, hey, life is beautiful. So each time wear one, there's a significance to it. It brings out that it brings out that me, the real me, and I love it. And that is why I continue to do it because each time I wear, like I'm like the mask. Like it brings a different me. It's like Zoro. I don't know if you ever watched that, you like Zorro. So that's about the glasses, and it gives joy, it brings lots of happiness as well. So that's the secret behind it.
Yes, yes, yes. I've been telling myself, who else have I told that one day, because yeah, one day I will wear bold glasses. And this is
Mm,
my origin story.
yeah.
This is, you are the person that I look up to. You and another lady, her name is Counselor Yemi Adenuga. You two are the reasons why I will end up wearing bold, extravagant glasses.
Oh,
Yes.
and make sure you do it because of you like it.
Yes, 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 yes.
Aha.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
worry. I see you guys as like, because you could do it, I can do it too.
Okay.
That's
Okay. I
that's
love
why
that.
I didn't.
I love
Yes.
that.
Don't this is a personal decision. Don't worry. I'm not being influenced by the masses.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure it's you saying that.
Yes. Okay. Not, I'm not being
Uh,
influenced. No.
yeah.
Say that being a
Yeah.
decision. Okay. Well,
Mhm.
as we're closing off, I have two last questions. And
Yeah.
the first one is, where is an area that you still have room to grow as a person?
Mm.
Because we've painted
Yeah.
this beautiful, refined version of Dennis.
Hmm.
So, what is an area that you still have room to grow as a person? And share only what you're willing to share. And the other
Yeah.
one is, what's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Wow. Devin, I'm gonna be very, very honest with you in that area. I'm growing in every area of my life. Every area of my life. Whether it's my relationships, whether it's being a father at work. If you have a growth mindset is saying that, hey, like I want to be better at this every day. And so every day of my life, I'm trying to see how better I can be, right? Whether it's the way I work with people, whether it's the way I do stuff at work, or just being a dad. So I'm learning every day. I've said something earlier how for me, what fatherhood between me and my father is so different with what I have between me and my boys. They're so different. So if I say, well, this is how my dad was to me and all that, and define that to want to be my father to my children, then I'll be a failure, right? So every day things are changing, life is changing. So every day is me being doing, like I would say, being able to adapt, adapt to those current changes. I think for me that would be because it's so easy to just rely on what you already know, right? Changes are becoming much more faster, right? There are many people of my age who still do not do social media because they feel social media is bad for you and all of that. But that's not true, right? Everything has its own bad and good, but it's also always exploring what is good. So I would say, to that question that Davina, I am growing in every area of my life, and I'm going to continue to be a lifelong learner, continue to learn. Like my children will grow up, they will teach me more things. They will make me say, "Oh, I'm going like, oh my God, I thought I was right, and I realized that I'm wrong, and I'm going to learn." So that's I would say that every area of my life, there's something to I want to grow there. And your sorry, this what was the second part of it again?
One piece of advice you would give to your younger self.
Oh, one piece of advice I would give to my younger self would be continue to be authentic.
Oh.
Continue to be authentic. Because there were times that I was being authentic as a child, as I was growing up, and I felt that it was wrong because of everybody around me made me feel wrong, right? Or I wanted to be like other people who were maybe their parents were richer or things like that. I wanted to be like them. But I could have well just been my authentic self, right? So if I'm going to talk to my younger self, I'll just say, P, continue to be authentic. Just be yourself. Imagine somebody who's authentic from when they start, right, to when they become adults, or compared to somebody who starts when they become just adults. Just imagine the joys they would have created, the happiness they would have created, the lives they would have changed so much more. So I'm just going to say, be authentic to yourself and never stop being authentic to yourself. You're going to change, that's fine, but continue to remain being authentic to yourself. That's what I'm going to advise my younger self.
thank you for letting us know that you've also fallen into that trap of
Yeah.
comparison and
Yeah.
realizing that you cannot keep living a fulfilling life and compare
No.
yourself to other people. Like the
No.
two don't mix.
At
No.
all, at all. Like there are many people I compared myself to when I was younger, and now today I look back at it, I was like, oh my God, that was a mistake. I
Is
should
it?
never. Oh yeah, I was like, oh my God, I thought, oh like, oh my, like these people were much more better than me. I wanted to be like them, and just realized that while I was thinking about that, they were also thinking of how they could be so humble like me, how they could be like me. That's what they were also thinking about as well. So just be your authentic self. I think it's gonna save you so much, so many troubles.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
officially at the end, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really looking forward to this conversation, and I'm glad I had it. Towards the end of my discussion, I am glad. I really am glad. I'm glad and I'm grateful.
Thank you,
Towards the end of my
darling.
discussion, I let
Mm.
my guests ask me one question, and I
Yeah.
respond to the best of my ability. What is your question?
Oh, I have a good one for you, David. So, Davina, right from the first day I met you, you've been an inspiration. The way you talk, the way your outlook on life, it's so beautiful. I must be very honest with you. When I was your age, I don't think I was anywhere close to you. I hope I am not comparing again. I love what you do, your outlook on life. There are many young people, I think you see life much more interesting than many other young people. So I'm very, very curious. What drives you? For Christ's sake, you have a podcast. For Christ's sake, you do so many interesting things. Tell me, I need to know the story. What is driving you, David?
Okay. Okay. I'm going to that when okay. I'm thinking my brain is making connections to answer this in the best way possible. But the
Okay.
first thing that comes to my head is I I don't know when I realized this, but I realized that we have very, very limited time on it.
Mm,
I don't know. And the funny thing is, I didn't have a lot of debt around
mhm,
me growing up. I think how I even realized this is, let's say you're going about your day and you hear that one celebrity has died, or a
mm,
friend's dad has died, or a friend's mom has died. And it made me realize that I can't keep saying, I'll do this tomorrow, I'll do this tomorrow, I'll do this tomorrow. One of my biggest fears towards the end of last year was I would die and no one
mm,
would be able to see the recording on my laptop for this podcast.
mm.
Because I started recording in November. And
Okay.
from November to December, I didn't edit, I didn't do anything. I just let it leave there. It was just on my laptop. And a thought that kept running through my mind is, Davina, what if something happens to you and nobody discovers the discussions you had with these people? So that's one. I realized that we have very limited time
Mm,
and I want to do the best that I can with what I have.
mm,
Now, talking about being the best, and I don't know where I got this from, but I have this perfectionist mindset. It has good sides. It also has bad sides. The bad side is I always like to present my best work. And sometimes that's just not possible with resources. But the good
mm,
side is if you give me a task to do, most times I will do it to the best I can. I don't
mm,
know how I learned this. It's just something that I picked on growing up,
mm,
whether it's a test, whether it's whatever it might be. And I see it as my baby. And when it doesn't go well, I start to feel as though that failure is a reflection of me. But
mm,
I'm learning that it's not. It's just an aspect. It's just a portion. So that's one side.
mm,
What else drives me? When it comes to this podcast in general, what drives me towards this is I realized that, and I was even telling you before we hit record, you don't know about a person until you ask. So what drives me is to ask. I've always been a curious person and I've learned how to fine tune that curiosity to just asking random questions that don't add value to asking questions that people are actually game for.
mm.
So I'm glad that I've been able to refine it to a certain level. I still have a lot of room to grow. I see people like Aman Poor and I'm like,
Wow.
so I think that's the best way I can respond to this question.
Wow. You blew me away. Great job.
Goodness.
Yeah. No, it's so it's so you know, keep being inspiring. um everybody you speak to wants they want to continue speaking with you, right? And I think that you have so much to offer to this world. You have so
Thank
many
you.
lives to change. You're talking about I'm on poor. I was like, wow, that's so amazing. I'm just gonna say keep doing what you're doing, keep having great conversations. One day you're gonna look back at today and wow, look at where I started. Look at look at how far I've come. My mom always told I always refer to my mom, and I've said this over and over. My mom says, my mom told me, if you don't begin, you cannot become.
That's
You have to
good. I'm
begin.
writing that down.
Yeah. If you don't begin, you will never become. But you know, like your mind is telling, you know, you begin doing the things that you never know where this is going to lead you to. So I would just say keep doing what you're doing, keep being great and amazing. And you know, as we always say, the sky is not your limit. The sky is actually your starting place. So bravo,
Thank you.
bravo,
Thank you,
Davina.
Dennis.
Bravo.
Thank you. As we close up, how can we find more about you? So LinkedIn, I'll put
Yeah.
your LinkedIn, and where
Yeah.
else?
Well, more of like you can follow me some on LinkedIn. That is where you would see lots of the stuff I do. Yeah, on the Instagram as well as Dennis Agbegha. Yeah, I'm on
Okay.
Instagram, Facebook, same name, Dennis Agbegha. Yeah, I think those are the places you can see me, or you can see me on the streets of Calgary, the guy with the colorful glasses. You can always find me there.
Yes.
So yeah,
Okay.
so those are places you can find me. Oh, you can find me on Davina's podcast.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you so much, Dennis, and thank you for having this interview with me. I hope those listening, anyone that got to this point in the interview, I hope that you are learning from Dennis's story on truly giving, having this giving spirit, and not letting the one bad egg affect the 99, on
yeah,
how to find that balance between striving for the best and also giving yourself grace. Because we all
yes,
deserve grace. Everyone deserves grace.
yes,
And not
yes,
falling into that comparison trap.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and letting
That's
go.
true. Let it
Letting
go.
go.
Let your experiences as well, right?
Yeah.
Your best days are always ahead of you. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the way I think all the time.
Yeah. This is a beautiful way to end the episode. Thank you so much, Dennis. I hope you have a good
Uh,
evening.
Thank you, Davina. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.